My name's Ian. This is the Big Picture with Ian Nash. I'm here with Mike. Mike is a new friend of mine. We're just here to talk about ayahuasca. We've both recently had ayahuasca experience, and we're just going to talk about it.
Yep, pretty excited.
Yeah, man. So I guess we can kind of start with what led you to ayahuasca.
Well, am I allowed to talk about substances?
Please do.
Okay, so years ago, I at my friend's house and I smoked this stuff called DMT, and I had no idea what it was. I didn't really understand, what I would be experiencing, and but I just did it anyway. And so I had a few different things happen to me, but when you smoke it, your eyes start to flutter, and then they close, and then you start to see things. And so the very first time I did it, I saw this skeleton holding this pitcher of sunflowers. Did I tell you this story? No? Okay, holding this pitcher of sunflowers, and this skeleton was trying to get me to go through this dark window. He's like, come with me. And I'm like, I can't go. There's my friends here. I got to stay with my friends. And so I really didn't understand that at the time, but I won't get into all that. But that was my first experience with it. Unless you want me to explain that. But so another time I did it, and I remember distinctly exactly where I was. I was outside in my buddy's little cabana thing he had. And I laid back, you smoke it and you lay back, and you have no idea where you are. You don't know who you are. You don't know anything. And that's it's pretty amazing. But you have to be ready for it. And so I did that, and all of a sudden, I see this guy in blue and this guy in maroon. And they were right next, they were on me. And I was like, what is going on? These guys are so close to me. Why are they so close to me? Mm-hmm. And so they all of a sudden start walking down this hill. And at the very bottom of the hill, there's all these people in all white. They're all in a circle. And I'm like, what is this? What is going on? In the middle of the circle, there was this orange ball, this copper-looking ball. Mm-hmm. It had mechanical gears all over it. And it started turning like crazy. And then the mechanical gears, the balls multiplied into thousands of balls. They went all up in the sky, and I was like, what? And then the people in blue and maroon multiplied into thousands and thousands of people. And I was like, what in the hell is this? Am I allowed to cuss? I was like, what the fuck is this? So I told my buddy about it. I'm like, hey, dude, this is what happened to me in my ceremony. And when I smoked DMT, first off, I didn't know what DMT was really, and here I am smoking it and having these crazy visions. And so I'm like, that was pretty trippy. So I told my buddy, and he's like, you know what that is, right? I said, I have no clue what that is. He said, that's an ayahuasca ceremony. I said, what do you even talk? What is ayahuasca? And so he's like, it's a thing they do, and he kind of explained it to me. And I was like, what? So I looked more into it, and I was like, okay, what is this? What is this stuff? I want to figure out more about it. Why do people do it? Why, what is it? And then I kind of forgot about that trip until one of my friends, she found this group of people who went down to South America, and they went and did ayahuasca. And I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to do ayahuasca. I want to go do it. Yeah. And and a lot of people told me not to go do it. And what do you want me to get into? You want me to get into that? Do you want to...
Sure.
Okay. So years ago, I had people would say almost a psychotic break, because of what I was doing in my life. I used a lot of drugs. I used every type of drug, almost every type of drug. And I had this major not psychotic break, I didn't want to say that, but I had a very tough time in my life, and I was using DMT all the time. I used ketamine constantly. I used cocaine. I used acid. I used ecstasy, everything. Mm-hmm. And tons of mushrooms. I was doing tons of mushrooms.
Sure.
So where am I going with this? So I left my whole career. I left hair. I was like, I don't need hair anymore. I'm going to save the world. Yeah. And everyone's like, Michael is crazy. Which I was on a good one. And I definitely was going to save the world. Yeah. I'm still trying to save the world, But so I left hair, and I went on the road with $300. And I don't know why I decided to start telling you all of this, but I'll just, whatever, we're here. So I started to I went on this trip. And on this trip, I thought I'd be traveling across the whole country and making, just helping people out and doing all these things, And so I had to stop in this Motel 6. At this Motel 6, it just happened to be Easter weekend, okay? So it was the reason I'm telling you that is because it was it made sense as to what was going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing all these drugs, and I started to think that there was something correlated with Jesus. And so here I am on Easter weekend. It's about 3 or 4 years ago. I'm with my dog, and whenever my dog wanted to do something, I decided to go do it. Like if he needed to go to the bathroom, if he needed to go outside. So in this Motel 6, I take my dog out to go to the bathroom. I'm in like a very sketchy part of town. I dress up a lot more sketchy, more like kind of run down, so I don't take any money with me. And I'm walking, it's like 1 a.m., I'm on acid, I'm on ketamine, I'm on mushrooms, I'm on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm going to bring some food with me because I need to give this to someone who's homeless. And so I go out my motel room and I go on this walk with my dog, and I'm walking, and all of a sudden I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, this food is for me. I'm the homeless guy. I'm the homeless guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, just like Jesus was. I'm Jesus. And I started to think I was Jesus. And so I'm on this walk. It's now about 4:30 a.m., maybe 5, Easter weekend. And I'm like, wherever my dog takes me, I'll go. So this dog takes me down this pathway, down this random street. And what do I see? I see all these people setting up for Easter Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, hey, brother, how are you? They can see I'm on some shit. Like, they're like, this guy is flying high right now.
For sure.
And so I go and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I used to be a drug addict, back in the day. And now I'm just out trying to help people. And they're like, oh, cool. Like, I'm like, well, what is this church about? They're like, oh, this is a church for recovering drug addicts. And I'm like, oh, of course it is,
Right.
So I go back I'm like, I'm going to come back to church. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Whatever. I'm like, I got to go back. So I go back to my motel room, and I'm chilling. I was like, all right, I got to get some rest because I need to go back to church, and I get some rest and whatever. I ended up missing church. But here comes like the biggest part is now it's Easter Sunday. It's Easter night. It's like Jesus' resurrection, okay? So here I am thinking I'm Jesus, So I'm in this Motel 6. I have paint with me. I'm a painter. I'm an artist. So I decide to paint this Motel 6 bathroom bright white. Yeah, the whole thing. I have video of it too because I recorded everything. I have so much video of all this stuff. I'm like, this is crazy. So I painted it bright white. I was like, I have to get this perfect. I was like, this is for the second coming of Christ. I'm the second coming of Christ, and I need to get this so beautiful so I can meet God. And so it was Easter Sunday, and I got this big gulp cup full of water, dumped all the mushrooms I had in it. It was just like probably an ounce or so. Then I had this Domino's pizza dessert, and I dipped it in the icing, then into ketamine, and I ate it. And then what else did I do? I was on acid, and then I got in this pure white bathroom, and I got in the bathtub, and I smoked DMT. And I was like, this is the purest way to meet God is through water.
There you go.
And so I smoked it, and all of a sudden my mind said, you need to kill yourself right now in this tub, and that's how you're going to meet God. You're the second coming of Christ. And like, this is how it's going to happen. And I was like, no, this isn't real. And I started pacing the whole Motel 6, and I was freaking out. And I was like, I'm losing my mind. I've lost it. I don't even know who I am. Like, and the voice kept saying, your family will think this is funny if you kill yourself right now in the bathtub. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. I get like chills every time I talk about this, but it was like, but I'm very open about it because, I see how easily people can slip into a very dark path. Very easily, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally was able to get to my phone, listen to this hypnotherapist, and he basically talked me down and calmed me down out of it. I had to come back to life and face life. My family was very worried about me. Mm-hmm. All my friends, my clients were like, is Michael okay? What's up? My brother I had like no money left. My brother gave me $50. He's like, come home. I had to come home and I had to face the music and like try to figure out life, and I know I kind of went off on not a tangent, but it's like, but with ayahuasca, it's like, I knew I needed something in my life to really like help me deal with all of that traumatic experience, and a lot of people were very worried because they're like, bro, the last time you did something like this, you thought you were Jesus. Like, are you ready for this? And I didn't know if I was, it was it was scary going to do it. Like, I don't know, I go on forever about it, but.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, in the past couple years, just the idea of utilizing psychedelics for healing has become much more mainstream. It's not all the way mainstream, but it's much more normalized now that, we talk about veterans or other people dealing with different types of traumas, and we say, oh, well, so-and-so went to Mexico and he did a ibogaine retreat or whatever, and these different things. But obviously these are very powerful tools that can be misused.
100%.
Yeah. Like you talked about, you were on ketamine and mushrooms and acid and DMT. Like,
it's like you're everywhere.
Yeah,
like, boom.
Of course. I mean, to me, for me, of course you're going to think you're Jesus, and of course some voice is going to tell you to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Right. My background is, I'm definitely someone who has struggled with depression for a lot of my life, right? And just contemplating suicide, is something that has been a part of my life, right? So, and this kind of leads into our discussion of well, when is it drug abuse? When is it addiction? When is it for healing? When is it, something else? When is it improving the quality of your life versus, reducing the quality of your life, things like that. But yeah, my story is essentially, just didn't really party or anything in high school, got to college, partied a lot, just whatever people had, things like that. And I ended up eventually finding my way into 12-step stuff and, stopped everything. I was clean for 8 years. And ultimately, this is a whole nother discussion, but as much as I have a ton of respect for 12-step, and there's lots of different ways, but the one that I was going to was very much just a joint or a drink or a crack pipe or a mushroom journey or whatever, it's all the same, right? And that just that works for a lot of people. And I think there are people in the world who just literally can't have any mind-altering substances at any point in their life, and I get that. I wouldn't say that I fall into that category, but eventually I just found it across the board, not doing anything. I didn't feel like that was actually serving my highest self. So choosing to come back into plant medicine and pursue psychedelics as a mode of healing has been very obviously challenging. Really, really challenging, but I'm happy with the choice. And you and I can relate a little bit on just having these, family backgrounds where a lot of people would not understand at all, right? And there are plenty of people in my life, who think that I should just never, ever do anything, right? And that's okay, but and people who have no concept of psychedelics as a tool for healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, coming to ayahuasca was just a journey of first of all, choosing to come back into the world of plant medicine and substances and stuff. And then last year when I was in Mexico, I had a Bufo experience, 5-MeO-DMT.
So you did that before you did ayahuasca?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, which is really, really intense. And that was a challenging experience, but when I think about ayahuasca, I really do remember the entire experience. Bufo, I have parts of the experience that I've remembered or that come back to me in pieces, but I think it was from 0 to 60. It was I was in a space of really never being out of the psychedelic world, and maybe mushrooms here and there or whatever, but then just to be that far, my brain was not ready for it.
Yeah.
So I think, and then last year and then this year, kind of having a couple mushroom experiences kind of prepared me for it. But I mean, this is I guess for you with smoking DMT before doing ayahuasca, I have had I had DMT years and years ago, but I didn't blast off. It wasn't enough to blast off. And then Just a couple of weeks ago, somebody had a DMT vape, but again, it wasn't a blast off or anything. But I mean, I just think that like nothing could have possibly prepared me for ayahuasca. Like I think just like people are like, oh, I've done mushrooms, oh, I've done acid or whatever, this and that. I'm like, I just don't think anything can possibly prepare you for it. And maybe you disagree, but I just think like, and one of the biggest differences I think is like when you, let's say when you take mushrooms, like there's, you know, a crescendo, like you're slowly getting higher, and then you're peaking for a little while, and then you're coming down, right? My experience with ayahuasca, again, this is just 2 times, is there's, you know, and this is kind of like the leader of the group that we did it with, it's just the fact that you have no control over the experience.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like you're going to be peaking here, and then you come back down, and you're like, hey, I'm comfortable down here. And then all of a sudden you're way back up there. And so you have no control over how high you are, or how, like, hey, I'd like to be a little less high right now, but
Yeah.
it's not up to you.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's true.
So yeah, so I've had 2 experiences. So my first and second experiences, it was a Friday night and a Saturday night. Kind of the tribe that we did it with, that we have done it with, it's like a 2-night thing. It's like if you just go one night, you really are not really engaging with the experience. And that was true for me. You know, night 1, incredibly challenging, purging as hard as I possibly could. I mean, you know, this is for anyone, you know, who's looking into ayahuasca and things like that. Like, you will puke as hard as you've ever puked in your life. And I don't know, maybe your first couple experiences that was true, but I mean, just I have never vomited that much and that hard in my entire life.
Yeah.
And that was like, so for me, the first night was just kind of preparing me for the second night, because I did all that purging and just like, you know, we were in the room with everybody and the music and the incense and all that, and I just had to leave. Like, I had to leave. I had to go outside, you know, and be outside, and just because I was so overwhelmed. And then the second night, you know, didn't puke at all, and just incredibly deep experience.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
I mean, I don't know if, you know, like you said, you will puke. Not everyone pukes.
Right.
Like, I know quite, like, going back to the, like, purging thing, you know, like, there's so many different ways of purging. We've kind of already talked about this, you know, but it's like I have a friend who was with me this last ceremony, and she didn't throw up at all, you know, both nights.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and she didn't purge when she did the first and second time. So it's like, so in my opinion, I think your body, whatever your body is going through, if you have more stuff, if you have more crap to deal with, and yeah, then you're probably going to throw up. Like I had an exorcism basically in Costa Rica. It was crazy. It was like I felt myself purging all of the things that all of my clients ever put on me, and it was just like nuts. And then after I purged, I got the feeling, go back and get more. You need to purge more. And I'm like, what in the fuck? I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, it was a lot. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's what, you know, the leader of the tribe that we did it with, it's like, yeah, I mean, it might be a purge of Rhea, it might be screaming,
dancing, you might dance, you cry, you laugh. Like, so I remember I had one time, like, you have this, like, when you do it, and I know you know this, I mean, I think you know this,
yeah.
It's like when you do it, you have this voice that's talking to you, which is, you always have your own voice when you are just kind of going about your day. Yeah. But this voice is different. It's the medicine. The medicine is speaking to you. And so when this voice is speaking to you, you're like, wait, is that me? Or is that the medicine? Mm-hmm. And so I had one point with where like they call her she, you know, she was talking to me and she said, you're going to purge out there in front of everybody. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to throw up in front of everybody. Like, I don't want to go out there and do this. Like, it's so embarrassing, you know? Yeah. So I go out there, and all of a sudden, this song comes on that was, like, super awesome. And I stood up, and I started dancing. And I was like, oh, my gosh, this is a form of purging. It was super cool. So I was, like, in front of everybody purging. It was really cool. Yeah, it's just so interesting.
Yeah, it really is, it's unique to the individual. And like, so I I hate using the word leader, but just we'll say shaman.
Yeah, the shaman. Yeah.
This kind of the shaman guy. And one thing I do want to mention is, like, a lot of people think that you have to go to Peru or Costa Rica or somewhere far away to be to ceremony, and that's not actually true. Like the group that we've done it with is local to where we live, in the United States. So
there's a lot more everywhere now.
Yeah, and like there are you might think you have to go to some faraway country, and you can do that, and I'm sure there's value in doing that, but like I felt very fortunate to find out about this tribe and then be able to go and do it locally, and
well, I think one of the huge differences about doing it down there is like you are immersing yourself in it. So you're there for 7 days and you do 4 ceremonies. So when you're here, you do it, you go home.
Yeah.
So you're very energetic, like you feel energy like crazy. You're very sensitive to it. So if you do it in Costa Rica or Peru, it's like you'll be able to get away from the real world and focus on that.
Right.
So it's a lot more intense. It was for me anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about, and so yeah, what I was saying was that with like the purging thing, and so like, people have heard the term dieta or whatever, but like this was more of a diet, and like the shaman was like stressing like this is not a dieta, like a dieta is like this is a totally separate thing. But yeah, like had this list of like things not to eat for like 2 weeks beforehand, and like don't smoke weed within 2 weeks, and all these different things. Don't like no fermented foods and no red meat, no pork, no whatever, and then 2 weeks ahead that reduce all these things, and then a week beforehand cut all these things out. And I did. I really stuck to it. I feel like it helped with the purge.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, like there are people who didn't do any diet and were still drinking and smoking the night before.
Yeah.
And maybe didn't throw up. So it's like, so that, what do you feel? So we kind of talked about like what brought you to it. And it sounds like you've had about 11 different ceremonies.
12 now. 12 ceremonies.
12 ceremonies, got it. Yeah. What do you see as changes in your life, and what do you see as like, I know you just had like a couple months in a row that you were doing the ceremonies, and now you're kind of taking a break. So what do you see are the benefits, or what do you feel like this is contributing to?
I mean, a lot, like I don't even know where to begin, honestly, because like I'm not the same dude as I was a year ago. Mm-hmm. It's been about, let's see, what is it? It's August right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I did it last year, maybe May or June. And it's like I used to gamble all the time. I used to be a whore. I used to do cocaine. I used to, like, all the time, like it was nothing.
Yeah. And
this was even after I stopped all my other hard drugs. I was like, I'm still going to do some cocaine, I drink on occasion. I ate like crap. There's so many things I did. Like, I was late with my clients all the time. I was all these things. And it's not like I did it once and then I'm like, I'm cured. Everything's fine now. Everything's perfect. But I started to see life differently, mm-hmm. And I realized, like, dude, I don't need that bad energy. Like, that's probably the biggest thing, actually, is energy. Yeah. Energy is everything to me now. But, like, what does that even mean? People are like, oh, okay, you gotta raise your vibes. Like, what does that even mean? It's like everything that exists has energy. You gamble, and you get energy from it. How do you feel when you gamble? Maybe you feel good, you might lose some money majority of the time. Say you're out sleeping around, you're kind of being a hoe. You probably won't feel that great. It's not a great feeling, to either hurt someone or whatever. When you're doing drugs, when you're just like even driving, cutting people off, it's like that's energy. Everything is energy to me now. And I see it all. Like, my place that I live, like I bought an RV about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's like, and I'm slowly fixing it up, and I'm like, okay, I need to keep this clean, I need to do this, like that's energy. Everything is energy to me now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and it's just so cool to see it. It's like, people always tell you your whole life, like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, and this, this, and this. Like, I was raised Mormon.
Yeah.
I was raised very strict Mormon.
Yeah.
And my family's like, you gotta, don't drink, don't smoke, don't blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, why in the fuck do I not need to do that? They don't even tell you why. They probably don't even know why. Right. They just tell you don't do it, and you're just not supposed to do it. Right. And so I just didn't do it. I was a virgin until I was like 24, 23. Right. And so I never understood that. But now I know why you don't do that shit, because it's energy. Yeah. It changes your energy. It's like anything that you're addicted to. Like if you're drinking coffee every day, which I still need to work on that. It's like that's something you become reliant on. That's not great energy. If you're eating candy all the time, if you're eating like crap, it's like it's all energy. And so I notice when I am working on myself, which means like waking up early. Like I wake up at 4:30 every single morning. First thing I do, I take my dogs to the dog park. I get home. There's a lot of other things I do, but like I go straight to the gym. I make my little shake, go straight to the gym, sit in the sauna, I meditate in the sauna, and then I do a little workout, then I come home, then I read, then I roll, whatever, we won't get into all that. I read, I meditate again when I'm at home, I write, what else do I do? Can't even remember what I do. But I do a bunch of different stuff, and then I go and I do art. And then I clean my place, and it's all in order. It's like, but it's kind of not in order. Mm-hmm. But anyway, doing all of these things, it changes my energy, and it makes me such a happier person. And I feel like doing ayahuasca has really made me more aware. Like I'm not just living my life now; I'm watching my life. I'm getting to watch myself live this life. It's so fucking cool. Like, and when you're aware of that. I mean, everything's not perfect, but it's almost like some shit happens to me and I'm like, that's life. And the coolest thing now and I've always kind of known this, but now I see it even more, is when something shitty happens to me, I get excited because I know something good is about to happen. Mm. Like, it's like, all right, what's about to happen? It's hard to catch it every time because you're kind of like, oh, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, dude, it's going to come up. And it's so cool. So, I mean, like, ayahuasca's honestly changed my life. I'm like, yeah, what were we going to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Like, and people tell you, like, you don't go into any psychedelic experience being like, oh, this is just going to fix everything about my life. And for me, you talk about the voice, right? And some people talk about, Mother Ayahuasca and Mother Aya and things like that, and some people talk about it being, her showing up to people or showing up as like a giant snake and all these things, and that was not my experience. Again, just two ceremonies, but
I'll tell you about that in a second.
Yeah, we can talk about the snake. But yeah, it was my own voice, but it was just like, so I'm just like very emotional stuff, like definitely crying and looking at my relationships and all those things, and a lot of it was just like my own voice talking to me. Like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? Or, a lot of it is like, okay, if X is what you want to do, then go do X, right? And if you're doing Y and you don't want to be doing, then let's figure it out, and let's figure out how we can have you not do that, right? Yeah. So that was a big part of it for me as well. But yeah, I mean, just in the actual experience, like, one of the things that kind of popped up to me was, and I kind of go into it looking for some sense of like, like you were kind of talking about, like with the DMT and Jesus and this is how I meet God and stuff. And I think a lot of people in the psychedelic experience, it is some desire to have some connection with the divine. I think that's why we pursue it, right? And I think that's why it's interesting to me and important to me, is like, I do want to have some sense of purpose in my life and some sense of, there is, forces in the universe beyond human comprehension. And I do believe that good exists, right? I believe good exists, and I believe that evil exists. Like a life experience has shown me that, yes, like good does exist and evil certainly exists, right? And like you talk about energy, like we have to choose. Like the shaman guy talks about a lot. It's like every show we watch, every piece of information, or all those different things. Like kind of, especially for me, as like a very sensitive person and as a empath and things like that, like I have to be very cognizant of what I expose myself to. Like I can't just, I struggle with it, you know, just like turn on this, turn on that, watch this, watch that, or just like, you know, expose myself to a lot of stuff that's not building up my soul at all.
Yeah.
You know, and I think why a lot of people are so lost right now is because we're being bombarded with all these different energies all the time, and then we wonder why like we're so depleted, or why we're so depressed, or why we're this, or why we're that, because we're not even paying attention to all the things that we're exposed to. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think one of the things that we were kind of talking about, just the idea of the matrix, right? And a lot of people have very strong opinions about this, of do we live in a simulation or not? Is this universe, is it artificially made, right? Do we live in the matrix, right? And I think ayahuasca can have some effect on a person's view. And I think for me in the experience, this was one thing I was going to say. When I was in the experience, when I'm kind of thinking about the divine and wanting to have some sort of revelation, right? What was going on in my mind, what I was seeing, all these different things. And what the voice was saying was, do you really think that your mind can do that? Like, do you really think that your mind is creating all of this, right? And the answer was no. It was like, no, I don't think my human mind is creating what I'm experiencing, right? And so that to me was kind of a cool part of the experience of, I didn't have Mother Aya just say, hey, I'm here. It was just like, do you really think that your mind is creating all of this?
Yeah.
Right? So I found that to be kind of very enlightening. But yeah, but on the matrix part of it, like, is our reality digital, right? Because like for me, in the experience, what I was seeing and just the shapes and colors and everything that I was experiencing did feel very digital.
Yeah.
You know, and did feel very like, okay, like I can see where the kind of the matrix idea can kind of come from. So do you have any experiences with that, or?
I mean, I don't know if I would actually say digital, but I see how things can be created by us, you know, and like how powerful we actually are. And that's one thing I've really noticed with like after doing ayahuasca is like I'll say things and things will happen literally within like an hour or a few days, and it always comes in pairs now. It's really weird. Like it's like, am I making this? It's really strange and it sounds a little crazy, but I mean, I think that's like the power. I mean, we don't have to get into the whole manifestation thing already, but it's like
We can.
But I think we can kind of create whatever the hell we want, you know, and it's like...
I'm really interested in this because, like, one of the reasons why I was drawn to you in the first place was because you were talking about manifestation and the ways in which you had seen those changes in your life. So I very much a newbie to manifestation. I don't know very much about it. I want to know more about it. I want to believe in it, and I want to know how to do it. After talking to you, that the second night, the first night, and then in the second night, I was like, okay, I said, I'm creating this. Like, by this date, I want this to happen.
So did you do that?
I did do it.
Oh, cool.
So those dates haven't come to pass yet, but like I've said, by this day, I want this to look like this, and I have this, and blah, blah, blah. And just like manifesting some things for the next couple months. And so I'm definitely curious to hear like you're saying, like about that and some examples for you where you've spoken something into existence.
Yeah, it's been blowing my mind actually, and it happens almost, it's like every few days something happens from my list, and it's like I don't really understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So I've heard the word manifestation so much in my life, you know, like, oh, just manifest it, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what does that even mean? I'm a very skeptical person. I'm very like, yeah, right, I don't think this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. You know, and so I saw this woman, I forget her name, but she has a book called Manifest. It's got an orange cover, amazing book, and she talks about these steps of manifesting, kind of like I told you. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I've heard of vision boards before, I've done one before, was just kind of vague about it. I was like, oh, this is cool, you know, blah, blah, blah. I keep saying blah, 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 whatever. So I wrote down, there's like 6 different categories, and I wrote down a ton of different things I wanted in my life. And people always talk about these vision boards, but this is kind of a little bit different. You're supposed to be very specific, and you write a date. And you're like, okay, this is what I want in my life. So I wrote down, find a girlfriend, find new guy friends, find some ayahuasca friends, have 15 solar deals, get 10 new hair clients, get 10 new older women clients, 10 extension clients, start my LLC, sell 15 art pieces. I'm trying to think of all of them because it's pretty crazy how it's all happening. And there's a few more things. Anyways, so within 2 days, my sister-in-law calls me. She's like, hey, Mike. She's like, do you play softball? And I'm like, I have. She's like, well, there's some guys who are looking for another dude to join their team. And so they picked me out of like 20 dudes to join their team. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of a coincidence. So I went and I joined their team. Then all of a sudden, this guy, he's like, hey, can I commission you to do an art piece? And I'm like, okay, like I haven't done art for anybody, but I wrote on my board, I want 10 sell art pieces. Then I have another friend, so I wanted me to do an art piece for her. So I did multiple art pieces. Then I got invited to this party on 4th of July, and everyone at this party was a version of me, which was crazy to me. They all hit rock bottom 3 years ago. Sure. And they all just recently moved to Vegas, and now all of a sudden they found plant medicine, and none of them knew each other 6 months ago. Like, it was nuts to me. It blew my fucking mind. I was like, you guys are all me. And that was kind of crazy, like getting into that whole thing, which is just blew my mind a little bit. But then solar, I had someone randomly call me and say, hey, you helped my friend with solar about a year ago. Can you help me with solar? I'm like, I don't even do solar anymore. But I wrote it down. And all of a sudden, these people are calling me. I'm like, what is happening? So I'm like, holy crap, like how is this happening to me? And so I realized, like, yeah, you can manifest. You can write stuff down. You're like, this is what I want in my life. But a huge part of it is your energy. Because these things already exist out there. Right. They already are there. There's already a girl out there who I could date. There's already these friends, these people. But here's a good segue, okay. But if I haven't raised my energy to that thing, I can't be there. Because I have to make myself arrive there. So years ago when I did all the ecstasy in the world, sure, all my friends were all ecstasy people. That's all we did. When that ended, now I had this new group of friends. All we did was ketamine and coke and blah, 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 and Molly. Yeah. And then I lost all those friends. I got rid of all of them, and I still, like, whatever. They're still in my life, but not really, you know? Anyway, so when I was at this party, I noticed that, like I said, everybody was me. So what did I do? I raised my energy. I raised my vibration to be at the level of these people. Mm-hmm. So you can associate this with anything in your life. With art, okay? Now start raising my vibration of art. Start just painting. Just start going. Just start doing it. And eliminating the clutter in your life. Eliminating the junk in your life. Getting rid of that energy, because you don't know what energy is going to come into your life until you start getting rid of that crap. And it's so real. And I never believed in this crap before. Yeah. It's just like, it blows my mind. Like,
yeah. So I know people who talk about manifestation, they talk about how, like, talk as if it has already happened.
Yeah.
Right? Like, not that I will do this or I want this. I want, like, it is. Like, I am this, I have this. Yeah. Like, operate as if you already have the things that you're trying to manifest, and just live in the space of speaking as if those things already exist, because eventually, like we talk about the power of the spoken word and the power of intention, of like, if you keep saying you are something and you have something, then eventually it becomes true.
Yeah, there's one other book that I read which kind of goes along with this, called The Surrender Experiment. Did I tell you about this book? Okay, this book blew my mind. So, Surrender Experiment, this guy, he discovers meditation, and he decides to basically surrender his life to meditation, and not just like any type of meditation. When he meditates, he does this thing where he hums. Mm-hmm. So we all have this voice in our head. This voice is telling us to do all these things, you know? Mm-hmm. But is that voice really correct? Majority of the time, probably not. So what he does is he hums until the voice goes away. When the voice goes away, it gives him this like feeling about his body answers him, okay? And so So all this stuff starts happening to him in his life, and he all of a sudden owns this land. He all of a sudden has, like, some yogi comes to his place and they build a temple on his land. All this crap. I can't really explain it that quickly. But I started realizing I needed to surrender more to the things that I wanted in my life. So I was like, well, what does that mean? What does surrender mean? Just to say, I surrender, okay, cool. So I went to this men's circle. At the men's circle, the topic was surrender. And I won't get into everything that was discussed there, but I'll talk about what I shared. And what I shared was all these things that came up to me in ceremony that I was supposed to do. And I'm like, how in the fuck am I going to do these things? I don't have money to do all of these things, like a meditation retreat across the country, this other ceremony I want to go, this other thing I want to do. I'm like, how am I going to do all this? It doesn't make any sense. But I kept feeling like, you're doing these things. You need to do these things. So I'm like, okay, like, I surrender to doing them, whatever. And I told everyone at this men's circle. And I was like, I just don't understand how to surrender. And so then this one guy said to me, he said, can I share my story? And so he shared his story. He said, well, I had all these things, similar scenario, where I wanted to go here and there to go, like, do these things. And he said, once I surrendered, all of a sudden, money started coming from all these places to help me go there. And so I'm like, okay, well, how am I supposed to surrender? So what I did is I wrote on my board, I have this board, I have an accomplishment list, and I write down accomplishments that happen every month. Mm-hmm. So I write down, I surrender to going to this meditation retreat. I surrender to doing this ceremony. And I crossed it out, I'm like, it's not going to happen. Like, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous. And I'm like, no, surrender. So I go back, I write it again. Like, I surrender to go on this meditation retreat. I surrender to go on this other ceremony. I surrender to do this. Literally, like, maybe the next day or 2 days later, I realize I get this rebate from a year ago for the solar deal that I did for like $800. All of a sudden, then I get this loan for my business for $1,600, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden, my whole business just books out. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Yeah. So now I paid off all the shit. I can go. So I'm going to all these things. Yeah. And I'm like, I have no idea how that just happened. So, like, where I'm going with this is, like, with manifestation is, when you write these things down, if you just trust that it's going to happen or that it's already happening, and you gotta watch it, then it will happen. I don't understand how, but you're raising your energy to believe that you're already there. It's really cool. I think one thing about, like, when you write your list, when you do your thing, it's like, you have all these things. You're like, where do I start? How is this going to happen? I think the thing that helps you get there is meditation. Yeah. Like, honestly, that's because, like, meditation has helped me more than anything in the fucking world. Because it just helps you be calm, be present, but also realize that all that stuff is coming to you. It's already there, right, and it's coming to you now. And so you don't have to worry about, I got to do all these things. It's like scenarios will pop up. And yes, you do have to work. You do have to do some things. Right. But it's like, it's all going to happen. And meditation helps you be calm instead of freaking out and like, this hasn't happened, blah, blah, blah.
Well, so, and that makes me think of, like, what you were saying about letting go, right? It's like, where do we, because when we say just, like, let it go, let it be, and let it happen, okay, am I letting it happen? Am I letting life unfold? Am I flowing with the river, flowing with the Tao of experience? Or am I just being lackadaisical? And am I being too passive, right? I think psychedelics can be a tool for not being so freaked out about, the speed at which these things happen. Yeah. Right? Because I think for me, like, with my life the past couple of years of what's the next thing, what is the next stage of my life going to look like, and what are the things that I care about, what are the things that I want to work on, what are the things that are important to me, and I'm drawn to the things that I'm drawn to. Like, I'm drawn to ayahuasca, I'm drawn to the experience, the psychedelic experience, and what it can teach us, right? And I'm drawn to talking to people who have interesting experiences. I'm just people who are interested in the same stuff as me. If I can, think about the positives of how ayahuasca and other psychedelics have improved the quality of my life over the past couple of years, it's just like, the main thing is like happiness is a choice for all of us, 100%. Right? And I think a lot of us were raised in environments where we were taught, well, you have to put everybody else's happiness first, right? And or like you're talking about like being raised Mormon, and like they said, do this, and do that, and don't do this, and don't do that, and you'll be happy, right? And follow these guidelines, and you'll probably have a pretty healthy and happy life. And those things are true in their own way, but obviously it's not going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
And then people like us, like if people tell me don't do something, my first thought is like, well, there has to be a reason why they're telling me not to do it. Right? Like I've never been someone who can take other people's word for it. Like the same thing with ayahuasca. It's just like, I need to know what this is about. Whatever this thing is, I want to know. I want to experience all that life has to offer. And yeah, and I think these experiences are just maybe just helping me being okay with not knowing how things are going to play out. And like, you might say, like, I should have done this by this, and I'm X years old, and I should have had this, and I should have had that. Or other people, look at how easily they can do this, and it's not as easy for me. It's like that living in that space of comparison is just so unhealthy. And I think that's so natural for all of us, and I think ayahuasca and the psychedelic experience can like help us to see our own intrinsic value. Like, the universe needs me, the universe needs you as the human being that you are.
Yeah.
You know, and that you don't need to be somebody else.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to, I know we're kind of jumping around and stuff, but I wanted to tell just a few little like quick fun stories about like ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Like when I was down in Costa Rica, you know, the lady who introduced us, who was like bringing us down there, she's like, Mother Ayahuasca knows you're coming. And all of a sudden we're on this hike and we're coming back down and I see this giant snake just looking at me in the grass. And I'm like, well, that's weird. There's a giant like boa constrictor snake just staring at me. And I'm holding an apple. I'm eating an apple, which is really weird.
Wow.
Yes, I know. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I was about to throw the apple at the snake. I was like, no. I was like, just eat your apple. I'm like, whoa, this is like Adam and Eve shit.
Yep.
So then the shaman the next day, she says, Mother Ayahuasca will come to you in many forms, and one of those forms is a snake. Mm-hmm. And I was like, my hell. Remember I said that I saw a guy in a blue shirt and a maroon shirt? So I was down there in Costa Rica, and I'm in the middle, and there's a picture of all of us. I saw myself 3 years before, when I smoked DMT, I saw myself doing ayahuasca. The reason I saw the person so close to me, because it was me. And I'm sitting in the ceremony, in the middle of the circle, the shaman goes and she puts this orange little ball, this like candle, and she covers it with this orange beanie, and it lights up all orange, copperish. And I was like, I saw this happen 3 years ago. And so it was like, I was supposed to be there. And so, I don't know, like, life's just crazy to me now, and like, ayahuasca, like, I think everybody should do it. You know, obviously, I mean, I don't know if everybody's ready.
Right.
But I feel like everyone needs to do it, because I just feel like it'll change your life.
How would you kind of compare the two, DMT and ayahuasca, and just like, do you feel like DMT prepared you for ayahuasca? I mean, I guess that story you're saying, like, in this weird, like, non-temporal way, like, you knew it was going to happen. Yeah. Like, your high.
But I didn't know, because I had no idea what that was.
Yeah. You didn't.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, like, DMT is a totally different animal. Now that I look at it all, ayahuasca, it's a lot of work, but DMT is scarier, is more intense. You know, like you were kind of saying, it's like,
with Bufo,
it's just like, especially with Bufo. When you are able to blast off, it's just like, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of process. And people like talk about the machine elves. I mean, you talked about the gears.
Yeah.
You're like talking
I've seen tons of machine elves are crazy.
Right.
They look, and I realize like what they are. It's just our mind, in my opinion. Yeah, right. It's our mind just trying to make us laugh or trying to mess with us. Like, that's what they do to me. They always try to make me laugh. They just joke with me. They're all clowns. They do funny things. Yeah. It's really funny.
So, well, that leads into my next question. So, do you look at machine elves or whatever entities you may have been exposed to? Do you look at these as real things? Or, I mean, real is a relative term, but like, do you look at those as entities, or you look at them, your brain, your mind, your whatever, your higher self?
I think it's your higher self. I mean, I think it's so many things.
Right.
Because, I mean, I feel like we're just way more complex than we can even comprehend. and we're connected to something that is so insane that like,
Right.
and so I mean, I don't really know what these machine elves are, you know,
Right.
because you don't always see them.
Right.
You know, I mean, have you seen them? Do you even know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
Wow.
it's like there's like these people, like they're people, and there's like on the front of one of the Beatles albums covers, that's what they look like. They're fucking crazy. And the thing is, people always see the same thing. That's the craziest thing to me. But yeah, the whole thing blows my mind. I love DMT though. I haven't smoked in years.
People talk about it as like the collective unconscious. It's like this store of knowledge and information. It whether they're real entities or they are the collective unconscious or whatever, like that's just semantics. I mean, there's something, right?
I do believe what DMT is.
Okay.
Like when you are smoking it,
yeah.
Like what happens is your eyes flutter. You know this.
Okay.
Your eyes flutter, they close, and they look up at your third eye. So that's why you feel this feeling of like, what the hell? You know, and so they look up at your third eye, and so what your third eye does is it can see visions in the future. So you can, like, I've seen things that happen all the time, like through DMT. Like I've had so many things happen to me. So I look at it as this psychic type thing of like, hey, we're going to show you things that can happen to you in your life. You know, whether you're going to understand them or not, probably not, because I know it can also be in your past as well, but I feel like your past is more of the ayahuasca. I feel like that deals with your trauma and stuff like that. I feel like DMT is like, let's show you what the fuck can happen, you know, and like, let's show you some future stuff. It's really cool. Because I mean, if you think about it, like, isn't DMT released in your body like when you sleep and all that sort of stuff? So like I've had, I mean, maybe this isn't for everybody. It happens to me though. I have dreams, and then the dreams happen. Mm-hmm. Like happens to me all the time.
I mean, there's definitely an overlap. I mean, the dream world is so interesting to me. Like one of the reasons why you don't, use cannabis within 2 weeks of doing ayahuasca is like ayahuasca and DMT is like a dream enhancer, and THC cannabis is a dream suppressant. When you are using weed, you really don't typically remember your dreams. It's just kind of blocked. But then when you stop, really just start remembering them. And I definitely look at, and this kind of dives into deja vu. I mean, I have definitely had like very strong deja vus, and I don't look at deja vu as just like your brain freaking out or whatever. I've had experiences where I'm like, this has happened, whether it's a parallel reality
or like in your dream.
In a dream, like definitely. Like there are things where I'm like, yeah, this was like a dream I had like 40 years ago. Yeah. Right? And like situations where I'm like, I have never been here. I've never been in this place with these people ever in my life. But this deja vu sensation is telling me that this has happened. Yeah. And I look at it as like a real experience. Like I don't think it's just my brain freaking out.
Yeah.
So how has this changed ayahuasca, all these different things? How has it changed your relationship with your family? Or do they understand? Do they not understand?
I mean, I think they see that I'm happier, but you get to a point where you realize that you can't expect your family to really understand what you're going through. Like I explain it as like there's these curtains. I think I already told you this. There's like a curtain, and I have gone through this curtain, and I look back at my family, and they're all still over here in this like kind of old world that I was raised in, and I have seen so much shit. And I want to be, but I can see them, but they can't see what they can't see what I'm seeing. And I want to be like, you have no idea, like how much mushrooms and DMT and ayahuasca can help you. Like, I just want to grab them and like, because a lot of people take pharmaceuticals and all that sort of stuff, and it's like, hey, this will help you. And I'm like, bro, you have no clue how much this shit will help you. And so it's very difficult. I have some headway a little bit with a few of my siblings. But in other parts of my family, I just have to be like, you know what? I accept you guys for how you guys are, and they're finally accepting me a little bit. They don't understand it. I don't ever expect them to. Right. They just look at it all as drugs, Yeah. And I get it. I get what they're saying. So,
I mean, it's similar for me. I mean, like, you talk about like healing. Like, a person has to want to heal, right? And this isn't like, it's not a position of moral authority, right? It's not that people who have done ayahuasca or who have done psychedelics are better than someone who hasn't, right?
Yeah.
Like, most of my family background is either you do nothing, which like that's optimal. People who just don't take anything is the best possible scenario, right? And then if you drink alcohol, that's socially acceptable within certain bounds, but it'd be better if you didn't, right? That's the idea. And then some people use cannabis and not really socially acceptable, and it'd be better if you didn't type thing. But beyond that, like there's really just, it's all taboo, it's all off limits, right? So yeah, but it's not, people have to feel like they need healing or that it's possible, that they're willing to risk life looking different or feeling different. People like us who are interested in these types of things, who want to have these types of adventures and experiences, like maybe we're somewhat of a minority and maybe it's growing, maybe globally people are becoming more interested in it. I think it is. I mean, I think you look at the explosion of psychedelic retreats and podcasts and all these different things, like people are interested and people want healing. But if people, like you used the term old world, like if people want to do things the regular way, the socially acceptable way, the old way, it's okay. And it's not better or worse. But I know for me, when I go back around all those people and they expect me to be the same person I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or whatever, and I have to be the same old Ian, or they just don't, it's like, you're going to be the same person no matter what, whether you go through healing. And we might want people to be interested and want to have these experiences. But, of course, there's plenty of people who are like, I don't want to go to the jungle and puke my brains out and sit in the mud. And if people are interested, they can come to you, they can come to me, they can come to whoever. But, like, most people don't want to be sold something, right? We can't just go and say, oh, my God, everybody, come on, let's all go do ayahuasca. Everybody hates, like, people will hate that.
Yeah, I've already tried that.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
You love your family and they have their journeys and like you said, whether it's pharmaceuticals or their cycles of not wanting to change anything, right? And psychedelics and just the person that I am, like, I've never been someone who, like, good enough is good enough for me. I don't want my life to be good enough. Like, I want to be excited about my life. I want to be excited about my relationships. I want to be excited that, and I want to, like, do things that I'm interested in and like have a wide range of experiences. And it's not better or worse. And people who just live life the way that they live, it's cool. Like we're all just doing it.
We're all just doing it.
So, do you have any advice or just suggestions for people who maybe don't have any experience with psychedelics and maybe are somewhat interested in ayahuasca? Would you have any thoughts for anybody like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is people think that it's only about the healing. They think that that's all it is. And like, that's like my last few ceremonies have not even been about healing. It's been about, let me show you some cool shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, and even the shaman, he was like, the healing's like this much of it. He says, this is the rest of it. Like, once you get through this shit, which is, it's not even as much, it's like people are so scared of it, but really it's like your mother is grabbing your hand and holding you, or a mother-like type figure, is taking you through your life and showing you that there are no monsters under the bed. It's like, hey, like, let's look at this part of your life, oh, you were abused, I understand that, that sucks,
Mm-hmm.
but it's okay, like, you're still a good person, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you actually feel the healing of it. And then once you get past those things, whatever those things are, like mine had a lot to do with Mormonism, once you get past those things, all of a sudden you're shown this whole new world, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, and you just feel unstoppable. Like, you feel like you can do anything. And it's so cool. Like, and I know you've done 2 ceremonies. Like, you're just at the tip of the iceberg. there's so much more like for you to uncover.
Mhm.
I can't wait for you to even do it more and kind of get more into it. It's just it's amazing. But it's the reason I think doing multiple ceremonies is so important is because doing it one time, it will not be the same the second time.
Right.
The third time. I've done it 12 times. It's been different every single time. You try to judge, you try to be like, okay, all right, I'm going to get ready for it. This is what's going to happen. No, it's never going to be like that. It's never going to be the same. But it's beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing. Like, I am so grateful for it. Like, it's 100% changed my life. Changed the way I view, like, just people. And also I view us all as, like, one person. We're all the same person, and we're all going through the same shit. We're all living parallel lives of each other. And so it's like, when you see someone going through stuff, it's like, that's you. So be patient with them, It's like, it's so beautiful. It's so interesting. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. All right. Well, we did it. I'm Ian. This is my wonderful new friend,
co-host.
Co-host. Yeah. There's plenty more to talk about.
I know. It's like.
Thank you for tuning in. This is our conversation on ayahuasca, and maybe we'll do something again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet.